Hallelujah. 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 It's you. It's you. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So, this is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice and what be glad in it. Hallelujah. So we were out ministering last night, and what I said to the people that you're going to praise God for your tomorrow. You're going to praise God for your tomorrow. So you know where you're at today may not look like your tomorrow, but you're going to praise God for your tomorrow. To come and praise God, believing by faith that your tomorrow is going to be greater than today. Hallelujah! Your tomorrow is going to be greater than today. Tell somebody, your tomorrow is going to be greater than today. Hallelujah! And I'm not come to motivate you today. I've come to worship with you. And we lift up the name of Jesus. Greater than mine today. Some of you could understand it, because sometimes what you see in your natural eye, you want to believe by faith that your tomorrow is greater. Your tomorrow is greater than your today. Your tomorrow is going to be greater than your today. You've got to see it. 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 You've got to believe it. You've got to see it. So what I want you to do is visualize something that you are believing God for. And before we sing a song, I want you just to praise God for that thing that you are believing God for. Yeah! You see, you might be believing God for healing, but you've got to see yourself healed. You may be believing God for financial breakthrough. You've got to see it before it comes to pass. You may be believing God for restitution. See it before it comes to pass. You may need restoration. See it before it comes to pass. You gotta see it. You gotta see it before it comes to pass. You gotta see it before it comes to pass. You gotta see it. You gotta see it. You gotta see it before it comes to pass. So restore. How many believe that God is going to restore everything? Everything, everything. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Believe that, believe that, believe that. Restoration has begun in me. All the blessings that you promised I will receive. I am healed, revived, dependent on you. I am learning to put my trust in you. From the top, restoration has He will never leave you, nor forsake you. He will restore it. Everything you feel that you've lost, He will restore it. He will restore it. You think you've lost a lot because you've been through many storms and many battles, and you don't feel worthy, you don't feel significant. But I've come to tell you today, God's gonna restore it to you. He will restore it. 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 He will restore you. We've been laying true for the night, but joy is gonna come. Joy is gonna come. We've been laying true for the night, just for the night, but joy is gonna come. Joy is on its way. Joy is on its way. God's gonna restore it. Everything that you feel you've lost, everything you feel you've lost, God said He's gonna restore it. Every weight of your shoulder, God's gonna restore it. God's gonna restore it. God's gonna restore in you your heart, the broken heart. God's gonna restore it. The seeds of rejection, the seeds of rejection. God's gonna renew your mind, renew your mind, renew your mind. He will restore you, restore you, He will restore you, He will restore you. He will restore it. 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 worship, that's when the enemy comes and he tries to tell you all kinds of things in your mind to distract you. But I want you to just focus on God, on the cross of Calvary, and what Jesus did for us. He came to restore. He came to renew. He came to give us a chance. So I want you to focus on Christ today, not on your situation, but on Jesus. So I want you now just to focus on one thing that God has done for you since he woke you up this morning. Just one thing. And just give him thanks for that one thing. One thing. And if you say, I can't think of anything, well, he woke you up. There are many that didn't wake this morning, but he woke you up. I can't think of anything else. Well, you were able to get up out of the bed. That's another thing to thank you for. And then you think, well, I can't think of anything else. But those who had breakfast, you were able to have breakfast. You were able to eat and digest with no problem. That's another thing to give God thanks for. And then we think about our arms work, our hands work, our feet work, our body works, our brain works. Jesus. That's another thing to thank you for. You may have come on the bus, but the bus brought you here safely. That's another thing to give God thanks for. You may have driven. We thank God that you arrived safely. You may have walked, but no one interfered with you on the road. So that's another thing to give God thanks for. There's so much knife crime going on around us, and we are safe. Give God thanks. He will restore everything in our lives. He will restore everything because he's God and God alone. You are God and God alone. Do you know that song? You are on your throne. You are God alone. And right now, in the you are God alone. You are God. You are God alone. From before time. You are on your throne. You are God alone. And right now, in the good times and the bad, you are on your throne. You are God alone. You are God. You are God. still waiting for God to come through. So during that time of waiting, what do we do when we're waiting? We keep moving forward. We can't stop during that season of waiting. Because sometimes waiting, God hasn't denied it. God is just saying, I'm going to teach you some lessons. First, before I give you that thing which you're asking for. And waiting is hard. Waiting is hard. But we've got to say, God, I've made up my mind to wait on you, wait in your presence. And often I have to say that season of waiting, it's a lonely place. And there's only so much that you can share with someone about that time of waiting. Because they won't understand. But we made up our minds, God, that we're going to wait on you. In those silent moments when we're saying, God, where are you, God? But I'm going to wait on you in your presence. In your presence. I'm going to wait on you, God. In your presence. I'm going to wait.
We will wait in his presence. Amen. Hallelujah. That was good. I don't even want to stop. I actually don't want to stop. This is what we came here for. This is what we came here for. This is what we've been waiting all week for. Amen. To give God praise. Let's just give the Lord a praise one more time. Hallelujah. We praise you, Lord. We thank you. So let's just greet 2 or 3 people and just say it's good to see you out today. It's good to see you out today. Hallelujah. Amen. It's good to see my brothers and my sisters out. Amen. Hallelujah. Good to see you. Amen. Bless the Lord. Thank God. Hallelujah. Thank you, Minister Master and Orville, for that. It was brilliant. Brilliant. Put your hands together. Amen. Beautiful time of worship. Hallelujah. Amen. This is what we came here to do. We came to worship the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. You may be seated. Amen. We just give God thanks that you are here, and to all our new family members that's joined us today, we give God thanks for your life. Amen. We praise you. We praise the Lord. We praise the Lord that you are here today. Any first time guests? Amen. What's your name? Stephen. Who put our hands together for Stephen? Amen. Faye. Can you put your hands together for Sister Faye? Amen. Thank you for joining us today. Didn't have to come today, but thank you so much for coming. We are Restoration City Church, and this is the church where we raise, repair, restore, and release. Amen. This is a powerful church. It's a family church. So again, thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the service. Amen. As you know, our pastor and co-pastor is away. I know they're watching online, so hi, Mum and Dad, you right? So, they've gone for a break. And so, we thank God that we can still have service without them. Amen? Amen? So, we feel that they've had a time of, relaxation and some time off, because it is needed. It's good to have a rest. You know what I mean? And Pastor's been preaching up a storm week in, week out. We've learned so much, haven't we? About this restoration in our homes and our families. Amen, amen. So, we haven't had a testimony service in a long time, and I'm very encouraged by the testimony, seriously. So, is there, even if there's 2 people, I just want to share a quick testimony. It's been a while. 2 people, share a quick testimony. Amen. Put your hands together. God is good. God is good. He is. He is. He is. This morning, coming to church on the radio, this woman right into Pastor Butler and said that she's in so much pain from her operation, but she still wants to give God thanks. But I give him God thanks because I went through an operation for prostate, and I never felt any pain. They offered me painkillers, and I said no, I don't need them because I was not in pain. So I give God thanks because I know what that pain is like. I know what that pain is like. And I did not have to feel any pain. And there's only one person who could have done that. Because when I knelt at this altar here before that operation, and he said to me, "What are you worrying about? I have you covered." And I got up because I believed. And I went through that operation without one drop of pain. And I give God the glory. I give God the thanks. In Jesus' mighty name. God is a healer. Amen. It would be so wrong of me to sit down and not be grateful to God. So just over a year ago or so, I was without work. And probably about, 6 months? Not working. Didn't know how we were going to manage, what we were going to do. And then God would have it that he would give me a job, but it was only on a temporary contract, just for 3 months. Then 3 months became 6 months. And then 6 months became a year. Still temporary. But then, before the year would end, the temporary became permanent. However, let me hold you. The faithful God. Amen. He will do exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask or think. Amen. Amen. That's good. Amen. Praise the Lord. Right. So we are going to have the word now. Amen. So are you ready for the word? We have our brother Cleveland who's going to share the word with us. I love his passion. I love his zeal. Amen. Let me tell you something. Amen. Yeah, stand up. Yeah, stand up. Amen. I really admire his zeal and his passion. If you're feeling dry, just be with Brother Cleveland for 10 minutes. I promise you, you'll be jumping off the roof. Yeah? He's a mighty man of God. And I just want to pray over our Brother Cleveland. So can everyone stretch your hands towards our Minister Cleveland? Father, Lord Jesus, we just want to thank you, Lord, for your servant, Lord Jesus, that's going to share the word today. Father, we just pray for boldness in the name of Jesus. We pray, Lord God, that you will speak through him in the mighty name of Jesus, Lord God. That whatever you have to say, Lord God, that you will use him, Lord God, to say what you have to say in the name of Jesus Christ. We pray, Lord God, that we will receive the word, Lord Jesus. Lord God, not just for today, Lord God, but that it will be a word, Lord God, that we can apply throughout the week, apply within our life. And so we bless you, Lord God, for our brother Cleveland in the mighty name of Jesus. So bless him and touch him. In Jesus' name. The church says, amen. Put your hands together one more time for
Amen. Good morning. I remember before you disappeared, I just need to jump for a little bit longer. I know in the black church we love to sing, we love to praise, we love to worship because we need to get our relationship with God right first. That's what Pastor said last week. So there's going to be one more. Because we have to get our relationship right with God first before we get the other relationships right. Amen? My God's a mighty God. He reigns forever and ever. Hallelujah. Amen. Still blessed this morning in the RCC. We're going to give God praise. We're going to give God thanks. Hallelujah, my God. My God is a mighty God. He reigns forever and ever. My God is a before you take a seat, look from side to side, from front to back, look around you. Say to each other, there's a power and a purpose in our relationship. There is power and a purpose in our relationship. Lord, I bless you this morning, Lord. Work through me this morning, Lord Jesus. Do what only you can do, Lord Father. Have your way, Lord Jesus. Bless us this morning, Lord Father, with your presence, Lord Jesus. It's in your presence, Lord, that we have our breakthroughs and our turnarounds, Lord Jesus. And we look to you, Father. Give us strength, Lord Jesus. Refresh us, renew us, Lord Father. Restore us, repair us, Lord Father. Release us to worship you, Lord Father, and do your works, Father, throughout this land, Jesus. Give you all the praise and all the glory. In Jesus' name. We have Genesis 37, 18 to 20. I'm going to read from the AMP version. Get your Bibles ready. Genesis 37, 18 to 20. And when they saw him from a distance, even before he came close, they plotted to kill him. They said to one another, "Look, here comes this dreamer. Now come and let us kill him, throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say, a wild animal killed him and devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams." So we know this is the story of Joseph. So Joseph was the son of Jacob. And Jacob was the son of Abraham. And this the story takes place in Canaan. Now, Joseph has 11 brothers, one of 12. Joseph is the second youngest of Jacob's children. So you know this story, but I'm going to summarize it. It's quite a long story. So Joseph is the second youngest of the 12. Now Joseph, he's the favorite of Jacob. Jacob's favorite. So Jacob gives Joseph a tunic. So this tunic is just an expression of his love. Gives his favorite. We've done that before. We give someone what we love a present. Joseph, 17. He's a 17-year-old. And his father is his favorite. His father asked him to go and look for his brothers. His brothers are out, the shepherding. And he brings back a bad report about his brothers. No one's going to like that. Back a bad report to Jacob. Obviously, his brothers aren't going to be very happy with him. Now, you think, well, brothers do that, they're happy. But then, Jacob has a dream. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to tell my brothers about my dream. You do that sometimes? Innocently. So he says to his brothers, well, I had this dream, and there were some sheep, so crops. And my crop grew up strong and straight, and your crops bowed down to my crops. Now that's going to sort of upset some people. So it didn't go down well, let's put it that way. It didn't go down well. Now, you'd hope that after the first time you tried it, you probably wouldn't want to say too much again, would you? But Joseph has another dream. This time, Joseph talks about the sun and the moon bowing down to him. Now, the brothers and his father said, so are you trying to say that we're going to bow down to you? Joseph. So, as you can guess, doesn't go down very well. And Jacob rebukes Joseph. But he does remember the words that Joseph said, and then he's trying to work out what does that actually mean. What does he really mean when he's saying that? So what happens next? Well, imagine his brothers aren't too pleased with him. They're just not. But what would you expect? This boy has told us that we're going to bow down to him. So they plot to kill him. Plot to kill his brother. What a situation that they've come to. What a relationship they've come to where they can plot to kill their brother. Now, they're sitting around plotting to kill him. When Joseph comes to them, Joseph is none the wiser. He doesn't know anything's happening with them while they're plotting and scheming to kill him. They apprehend Joseph, they tear off his tunic. And before they kill him, Reuben says that, we can't kill him, he's our brother. Some sort of sense kicks in there and says, we can't do this with his brother. There's a pit here, let's throw him into the pit. Yeah, these pits are where they collect water, so traditionally these pits could be quite large. They were usually cut into limestone, and there might have been steps down there, but this was probably one which didn't have steps in it, so he couldn't get out, and there was no rope in it, so he couldn't really get out. So Joseph is in this pit now. Reuben's idea is, what? I want him to throw him in the pit because I'm going to come back later and rescue him, and then bring him back to our dad, because I'm not really into this. I don't really want this. So Reuben goes away, but the others, I think it's Dan, Naphtali, there's some other brothers still there. Now they're eating, and they're still contemplating, and they're probably still a little bit angry and aggrieved. And then they've got this whole situation is just evolving now. So you've got Joseph in the pit, Reuben's gone back, and some Ishmaelites come by. Now they have an idea. Why don't we sell him to the Ishmaelites? Why don't we do that instead? Okay, sounds like a good idea. So they sell him to the Ishmaelites. Now Reuben's away. Reuben comes back, and Reuben goes to look in the pit. Joseph isn't there. So you imagine his despair now. He rips off his top. He's distraught. Where's Joseph? The brothers, now they've got to think of almost a new plot now, because if Reuben wasn't involved in the first plot, and we've got to keep this thing covered, so this game of lies is starting to evolve now. It's one thing on top of another. What are we going to do? Well, Reuben knows no better, so we'll get his tunic, we'll find a wild animal, we'll find an animal, we'll soak it in the blood of the wild animal, and then what we'll say is, that, we'll go back to our father and we'll say that a wild animal tore him up, killed him. That's what we'll do. So, you imagine now they're thinking, we've got to get this, we've got to get our story straight. We've got to get this right. So they go back to Jacob. Well, Reuben's already in despair because he doesn't know what's going on. So he's probably the best person to be there, crying his eyes out. So this whole situation looks really, really real. Some people know more about what's going on than the others. So they tell Jacob. Jacob is distraught now. It's his favorite, He's distraught. He has to go to Sheol, I don't know if I pronounce it properly, but a place of mourning. He wants to go into mourning for his favorite child. So relationship was being broken. So
The story moves on now. Joseph has been sold by the Ishmaelites to the Egyptians. So he ends up into an Egyptian's house, an Egyptian who's one of the royal guard, Potiphar. So he ends up in his house as a servant. Joseph still has his relationship with God. God is still with Joseph. Joseph is still blessed. So in the house of Potiphar, Joseph is basically, Potiphar is seeing favor with him because he knows he can trust him with all that he needs done within the house. He can trust him. Because Joseph is still Joseph. He might be hurting, he might be in pain and in sorrow because of what's happened to him, but he's still going to serve. He's still going to do it, and he's still got his relationship with God. Verse 39. Genesis 39, verse 2. That tells us. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. So the Bible tells us he prospered in the house of the Egyptian. Now that didn't mean he didn't have further troubles within that house, because he did. Joseph was a handsome man. And the wife of the Egyptian took a bit of a fancy to Joseph. Took a bit of fancy. He was a good-looking guy. And let's just say she kept trying it on with him. Trying to get him to, do. She just kept trying. But Joseph said, no, I'm not sinning against God. And I'm not betraying the faith this man has had in me. I'm not doing it. I ain't doing it. But you know what happens if a girl really likes you, scorns you? You might have to block them on Facebook. Stuff like that. So anyway, a situation comes about where she sort of engineers the situation where Joseph's basically accused of sleeping with her, which he hasn't done, and he's thrown into jail, into prison. So not only has his brothers turned against him, thrown him in the pit, gets out of the pit, gets sold, sort of looks like he's on his feet a little bit, then gets thrown back into prison. You think, boy, Joseph, this is a tough life. What's going to happen to you next? In prison, Joseph is in prison with two other people. Now, these two other people, cup holder, bearer, and the baker for Pharaoh, were thrown into prison because they basically lost favor with Pharaoh. They're thrown into prison as well. And they're having this dream. Joseph is able to interpret their dream and tell them what it actually means. So I'm going quickly through the story and paraphrasing. But the dream was that, for one of them, the dream was about birds of prey pecking their head, pulling them apart. And for the other was about grapes and the cupbearer of the grapes, and the grapes being squeezed into Pharaoh's cup. So Joseph is listening to this, and Joseph interprets it. But before Joseph interprets it, he says it's God who will interpret it. God will give you the answer. So one answer is quite good, one answer is not so good. One answer, he's going to be restored as a cupbearer to Pharaoh. The other answer is he's going to get hanged. I don't know who's going to take that. Can you imagine? You're going to tell me what's going on, and you're going to tell me that I'm going to get hanged. All right, okay. I might be happy. You're going to tell me that I'm going to be restored, put back into place. Ooh, good. So anyway, these dreams come true. In 3 days, that's what happens. Now, Joseph, all he asks for the cupbearer is, don't forget me. Don't forget me when you get restored. Anyway, time passes, and now it's Pharaoh's turn to have dreams. Serosistis the second, I think this Pharaoh was called. You can Google him. Sometimes, we talk about people in the Bible, you think, who's this? Google him, you'll see him there. You'll see a nice little bust of him and everything. Now, he has these dreams, and he has the dreams, and his dreams basically are around about famine. He dreams about these cows, thin cows, eating fat cows, and then these thin crops eating these larger plump crops. So he's worried because he's having these dreams. He's had it a couple times. Now, he calls everybody in the land, all these people, or whatever they were, soothsayers and people who believe that they knew dreams and stuff. He calls them all in and he tries to get answers from them. He can't get any answers from them. Can't get any answers from them. But someone says to him, there's a man. There is a man. He was in prison. And this is what happened. I told him my dream. And this is what he told me. And it all came true. So I think this is a man, basically, you should try. You should try this man. It makes sense. No one else can give him an answer. So why wouldn't he, ask this man? So, gets Joseph out of prison. Joseph comes to him, tells Joseph what he's dreamt. Joseph interprets the dream. He says it's about famine, about 7 years of famine, 7 years of good times, and then we're going to have 7 years of famine. So basically, you need to get prepared. You need to make sure that you've got your crops and your food to one side, so that when the famine does come, that you can feed the people. Now, Pharaoh is like, wow, this guy is good. This guy is... Why couldn't you guys tell me that this guy is good? Okay, we're going to get ready for it, but I need someone who's going to be able to do this. Well, isn't it the wise man in front of him? So he promotes Joseph. Promotion. So he's gone from pit to slavery to doing well to prison to promotion, out and promotion and elevation. So he's now made almost second in command to Pharaoh. Second in command to Pharaoh. So Pharaoh's made him in charge of over all these lands. Second in command to Pharaoh. How powerful is that? And Joseph does what he says he's going to do in terms of collecting the food, gathering it all in, making sure there's, during the plentiful time, that he's making sure he's putting some back for later. Makes sense. He's been truthful. Now, time has passed on. Remember when Joseph was 17 when he had the dreams? Then all those things happened to him. Then he's in Egypt. And then Joseph is about, I think it's about 30 when the famine, before the good time starts. So he's about 37, he's a bit older by the time the famine is starting to kick in. Now the famine is spread all the way back to Canaan. Canaan is where Jacob and his family are, in Canaan. Now, Jacob is having a conversation with his sons. Time's passed on. He's probably still thinking about Joseph and stuff. But time has passed on. But the famine has come, and he's thinking, what are you doing here? You've heard that Egypt has got food. You know this guy's got food. Why aren't you out there going to him? So he sends the sons, but he holds back Benjamin. Benjamin is now the youngest, but the Bible says when we say he's the youngest, he's not actually that young. He's about 30, isn't he? He's not actually that young, but he's the youngest. It doesn't matter. Your baby's always your baby's, mothers would say, wouldn't they? Yeah? So he's young. He holds him back because he's lost his precious Joseph. He don't want to lose Benjamin. That's not to say he doesn't want to lose any of the others, right? Don't get it wrong. But he's holding back Benjamin. So they go anyway. They go to Egypt, and they've got money, and they want to buy some of the food. So anyway, they go to buy the food. Now Joseph recognizes them. They don't recognize Joseph. Well, they haven't seen him for ages. He's probably got it burned in his head what they look like. But he might have changed, times moved on. I don't know, has he got a beard or whatever, and he's got some Egyptian clothes on. And plus, he's not speaking the same language as them. He's speaking through an interpreter. So that's going to throw him. They say, well, when he left, he was about so high, he was clean-shaven, and he spoke our language. So why would I put two and two together and think this man is Joseph? So Joseph, anyway, you imagine if you haven't saw your family who tried to kill you, and the first time you must be able to hold back some tears, or hold back some anger. You were holding back something. You ain't seen him that long. So he holds back, and then he says, you guys are spies, aren't you? You've come to spy on me. You spy and see what we've got. Maybe this is Joseph thinking, I'm going to get these, I'm setting for them, I'm going to get these people, these brothers of mine. Maybe he was thinking that, I don't know. But anyway, they say we're not, and they have a conversation, and Joseph is asking questions, and I think Joseph, is he toying with them now? Because he's asking quite some kind of questions, really. He's got another motive, isn't he? He's asking about your family, this and that, and they mention that they've got another brother at home and this and that. I already know this, but he's speaking through the interpreter. He knows this already. So anyway, let's move the story forward. They go back to their father. He gives them all the food that they wanted, fills up their bags. But what he does also is he puts the money they came to pay with, he gives that money back. He puts that money back in the sack, and he puts more on top. Joseph's name in Hebrew is added to. He added to the sacks. He added to them, sent them away, and they're thinking, this Pharaoh's brilliant. He's great. Go back to Jacob. They've got all the things that they wanted. They're sitting down. They open the sack. And they see the extra money and the money they put in there. Jacob's like, whoa, this isn't right. This can't be right. Something's gone wrong here. Something's wrong. Either, they did think about, well, maybe he's going to come after us and say that we stole this, but no. Either there's been a miscounting when they were giving it out. Something's gone wrong anyway. So Joseph says, listen, go back, take the money and the extra money, go back to relationship and the power of relationship. Jacob stood, when you come to somebody's house, you bring gifts. So he sent them, with a bit of almond, a bit of honey, a bit of myrrh, stuff from the best stuff that they've got in his land, and he sends them back with it. But what I forgot to say was when they left the first time, what Pharaoh said was, don't come back unless you bring Benjamin. That's quite important bit I missed. Very important. So, anyway, they come back. No, they tell Jacob this, and Jacob's a bit like, well, why did you have this conversation? Why is Benjamin now involved in any sort of discussion that you've had? And he's not very best pleased, but he understands the situation, and he understands the power of relationships. He understands if we've said that we're going to do something, we're going to have to do it and go through with it now. And one of them says, don't worry, look, if anything happens, I'll take the blame. He can have me. Don't worry about it. He's not going to have Benjamin. Benjamin's going to come back to you whatever happens. He can have me. So they go back. And when they go back to Joseph, not knowing that he's Joseph, they think that they're going to Pharaoh's place to sit down and have food, but no, they end up going back to Joseph's place, and they think, well, why are we here? And I'm thinking, is Joseph still toying with them? I'm reading this. I've read this about 3 times, so I'm recollecting the story. Is he still toying with them? They're coming back to his house, not to Pharaoh's. And then when they get into the house, he's giving them, lavishing food on them. And now the Egyptians and the Hebrews are not supposed to eat together. The Egyptians don't see that as right. They have that separation. But he's got them in a room, and they're eating up the food, filling up their bellies, and then And what Joseph does as well is he gives Benjamin 5 times as much. They bring Benjamin back with them, 5 times as much food. And I'm thinking, really, you're messing with their heads now, because they envied you when you had the dreams. When you had that, they envied you and you were the favorite. Now, is it almost like you're trying to make Benjamin? What would they do? I'm thinking, is he testing? Is he testing to see what they'll do? When one of them is now the favorite in there, the favorite Benjamin's with you now, and now you've got 5 times the amount of food. But they shared it with him, and they enjoyed the food with him. That's different. The story on. They have the food. Before he sends them away, what Joseph does, then, he has this cup in his house, and he makes sure that one of his servants puts the cup into Benjamin's sack. So it is a bit of a setup now. So when they are returning to Jacob,